There's this old saying, I think goes like a picture is worth $1,000. I think that's what it is. Dustin with Empty Box. Today we're going to go through photo documentation and all the things I see come across my desk from contractors, and then just tips to improve telling the story of the loss for better approvals from carriers. So I think what I'll do is kind of just go through some example ones. I just built like a example file here, and then I'll kind of go through different variations of roofs and water mitigation claims, and then I think some are restoration rebuilds, stuff like that. But one of the main things I think we're going to talk about is close-ups, overview shots, how every photo is worth money, and then the more photos you have is always going to be better. So let's just look at some close-ups first, because like realistically, if I were to open this photo right here, it doesn't really tell me much until I start to add context, right? So I need to understand, well, what is actually happening on this roof? Otherwise, this photo, I might just think, oh, there's flashing there. But if I understand more context of what are they trying to show me here, that becomes super helpful. So this photo here does start to build the context. You can see actually leaking here running across the decking now. So it looks like likely water is just getting trapped behind here. I don't know if there's a cricket. Let's see if there's a photo that shows that. So this is the back side of it. So it doesn't even look like there's a cricket. It's a pretty small chimney in relation to other sizes. So it would be hard, but even still creating some sort of runoff here. And it's at the peak too, so that makes it a little harder. But chimneys can be one of the worst places for water buildup and leaking. So I would imagine what this contractor is probably going to do is add some like ice and water back here, maybe create like a metal guide, but there'll always be something that builds up here. So just protecting this with ice and water shield and then flashing this properly is probably going to be the main goal. But they'll have to redo this decking here on this job for sure. But close-ups, like even this right here, that is a ding, but doesn't give me a whole lot of context. Once they start doing things like this, so that's what I would call more, not a close-up, more of like a mid-range one. It does start to kind of build out, giving you like perspective of where is it, and you have a view of the roof up here as well. But they did put chalk around it, so it does look like dings, and I would imagine this was a hail claim, is what's going on. So they start to build the story more. This is a close up. I don't know where that's at on the house. I have no clue what this is right here. It looks like maybe something to a window. Oh, it was the door. So now you get like a pull out view, and you can see that that was actually a dog door right there. But so this picture becomes very helpful for this one. Now I can't tell you how many photos I get that look like this without the zoomed out version. And they'll put in their notes to me sometimes like, hey, we need to replace the door. I don't know that this is the door unless I get this photo. So this photo becomes super helpful. I would even say zooming out for an overview photo would even be better in this case, because now I can see where is it at. This one, I could make the assumption that that's the door I was looking at, but I don't know. It's hard to tell based on the look of that. So I don't really have much context. It's definitely not that door, and I don't see anything there. So you can see what I'm saying. This is unhelpful, only helpful in the sense that I have this photo. So now that photo does become helpful. I can go back to this one and say, oh, okay, close up view of door. You can clearly see hail ding, hail ding. But without this one means nothing. So that's all I'm saying is, and then if you pull back out further, we can start to see what side of the house is this on. Is this in the back of the house? So I think every photo does become worth actual dollars. So this right here, I wouldn't have seen that on this photo. It is kind of showing here, but you get a zoomed in. Now I can see they chalked that, but they also chalked the inside. So now I have some trim work around the door that I can start to bill the insurance for that needs to be replaced. That does clearly look like a hail ding there. And like on the stairs here. So I don't think I got any zoomed in ones. I think they're all overview. So now here what we're looking at is I get an overview of this running down there. I would imagine they're trying to show me like, hey, this was affected by the hail. But I think with the limited views I have, there's no insurance company that's going to just accept this as damage. So I need something, whether they go along here and they show, as the wind was coming and the hail is like shredding at the top of that. So do I need to sand it? Do I need to restain it? or do I need to replace this stuff? Was it bad enough that it needs replacement? Sometimes like these things will just dislodge and become disconnected from the railing. So this doesn't really help me out. They could have spent time going down those stairs. And I would say with the size of this, like if I look at this right here and start to see like, okay, I got a lot of things, I would think you could get anywhere from 40 to 50 photos of just this area instead of three. And they're just like looking at it. I don't know what they want me to do with that. Did they think it was pretty? Did they want to show it to their wife? Are they trying to get money for repairs? That's what I'm saying is the more you can tell the story, this could actually mean money. I would say if we're going to sand and restain this, properly, you're going to have to power wash it first, sand it, and then restain it, probably more than once. And so this could be $8,000 worth of work just to get this section done properly. But without the photos, it's going to be very hard to get an insurance company behind that to say, yeah, we'll pay for that. That makes sense because this makes no sense to me. I don't know what we're actually trying to get here. So taking more photos will always be better. Take the time to kind of go through this and say, yeah, I could take 40, 50 photos. It wouldn't even take that long. Like as long as it takes you to walk down the stairs to get to the bottom and back up is probably as long as it's going to take to do the photos. So I would say, let's just say 30 seconds down, that's 1 minute. 1 minute could mean $6,000 to $8,000. So that starts to encourage my clients where, hey, get more photos. Just take the time while you're there. You don't need to come back. Because if I submit for that, if they just text it to me and send me this photo and say, hey, the stairs down to the water need to be sanded and restained. If I send this photo in, I can guarantee we're going to have to send someone back out, whether that's the owner of the company or one of the project managers. But that's time wasted, money lost, not only on this claim, but on the ones that they could be going to rather than going back to this job. So that'd be my encouragement. Pro tips for this: just take the time to do unseen areas as well. So like if I go back out, let's go and look at a different thing here. So this one you can see at double layers. So like that's a pretty cool photo there because the carrier would not have known that there was a second layer under here. Maybe if they did a good inspection, they could have actually seen it. But a lot of times they won't be looking at these rakes of the roof to be able to see that. So this becomes a helpful photo because now I can bid for remove second layer everywhere on this house. But let's look at some of these things because I think this will give a little more context. So if I go into this project, I remember actually doing this one. So there was rot behind here. I don't think the carrier actually covered this. I think that was the one thing that didn't get covered. But what we did do is we actually got a lot of coverage extra on this project because we did start to take photos of things that you couldn't really see originally. So like this one, the whole roof had to come off. We had to tarp it just for a day, I think it was. But this area here, you start to get up into this, you wouldn't have been able to see between those. So they did some discovery there. We got that stuff approved. And then they cut back this area here. Underneath here, they did insulation would have been unseen on the initial inspection. Getting into the walls here, we started to do. And then I think this was the area they couldn't see. So we had to tell them kind of how thick that was as far as the insulation goes to give them perspective like, hey, we need this much. And I think it looks like it's 14 inches deep of the insulation. So that project kind of went in phases. I think our initial inspection, and then we started doing more discovery, and just showing things that you can't actually see on that first inspection. Same thing here. A lot of times, like this looks like the cause of loss. So they did some minor repairs just to get that. And then this would have been a water loss. So this right here, I don't think any adjuster is going to be getting up there to see that this condensation is forming, dripping into a drip pan, and just how bad that is. I think that was the cause of loss. I'm pretty sure these were in an attic and it started spraying water everywhere because of these. I'm guessing it's an air conditioner. Yeah, it must have been an air conditioner. But all these things started spraying all over the attic and created damage into the house as well. So just getting, readings right here, but this was actually really hard. I remember for the project manager to even get up into this area, access this area to see like, hey, what's causing this thing, and get this approved because it just was like constantly spraying water up in the attic. So that one would have been unseen, very hard for an adjuster to get up there if they didn't. So we had to tell the story better just so that we could get those things approved. This claim here, I think the thing I liked about this is the different views. I think it was a really good job of thinking of perspective. Not the best photo report. Like I probably would have asked for a few extra ones, but this was not bad, to be honest. Like this does start to build a story a little better. So it's just showing like how much the water ran up. I think this was a flood, maybe in Florida. I'm pretty sure it was in Florida from the hurricane. So it's just showing like water went up about to here, and then it would have got inside. And the thing with drywall, it wicks up if you don't do water claims, but it wicks up. And so they're showing kind of like, okay, this is where the water got to. We need to create some flood cuts, and you can see the debris in here that they just kind of washed in a lot of things. I think they call it a muck out when you just go in there and start cleaning up all that stuff that came in with the water, and damage to the bathroom. So these cabinets probably likely had to come out, I would imagine. But some of the things I liked about this one, like I wish there would have been a zoomed out photo of this one to be able to see like that cabinet run, but that's pretty good. Like it gives perspective that there is an appliance here. You get a sink there, tells you the brand. So now the close up becomes valuable. Before it might not have been as valuable, but now we can say, okay, this is the brand that we're going to actually be bidding in the estimate. So that photo becomes a little important. We do see kind of perspective that starts to run around, but like if you zoomed out right there and got a little bit better photo, I think that would have been more meaningful, to be honest, than just this one. But that's probably nitpicking, to be honest, because they did do a pretty good job, but they just kind of follow along. So it looks like we had, stove. This was the dishwasher, cabinet, stove, and then it gets into the things. But a zoomed out one really is helpful. It does give a better perspective. I always thought, like, if I go back to some of these outdoor photos, this one might actually have it at the bottom. Yeah. So like a walk around the property, this actually helps out a lot. So not even that it's like damage here per se, but there would be. So I can say, okay, I need to bid this area. You can make some pretty quick assumptions, like, let's say this window is 3, 6, so that's 9. I would probably put this at like 15 feet from here to here, just as a quick number. And then I can assume that that's probably 9 feet. So, 15 by 9 is the first part over here. I think it was stucco. I'm not sure, but we could figure that out as we start to get zoomed in. Looks like it actually might be some concrete. This picture is good as far as showing close-ups of what's going on there, but this view gives really good perspective. So now I can see there's some paneling, there's some fencing. Do I need to replace this paneling? Do I want to redo the painting of this whole area here? What is this made out of? What is this made out of? Does that need to be replaced? So getting kind of that view around the house does start to help out build the story. This is a very good picture. I can kind of see like how are things connected. If I know what's behind that, just by a drawing or whatever perspective, I can start to figure out like, okay, well, just because the inside was affected, I can start to assume that maybe I need to do some work out here potentially. This gives another further view of the property. So that's kind of what I'm saying is like once you get perspective, get a full walk around of a property, that becomes really helpful. And then start tightening the frame on the loss areas. Get an overview shot of the areas. So like if I go inside now, we could say here's a really good overview shot of the area. I can already make assumptions. Well, it looks like we're cutting this out. This was some sort of custom paneling right here. They covered up contents. There's tile floor. Looks like there was another floor maybe taken out right here. I'm assuming probably wood glue down. Might not be. I can figure that out later. But you can make a lot of really quick determinations just by an overview shot, and then start going mid-range and then close-up. So like let's say, for instance, maybe right here there was an outlet that had been damaged by the water. They wanted to show that later. So they kind of start to tighten up that frame so I can see those things and say, oh, I see what's happening here. But these overviews become really valuable. This, like from here, this is the overview shot showing all that again. They're going in this corner, and then they gave a tight view shot of this right here. So now I can see that it looks like there was concrete. I can't remember what that's called. I don't think it's called terrazzo, but whatever that is when they do that like stylistic painting on top of it. But you can see that the tile, there must have been some floor here. So there was baseboards wicked up to about here, and they're going to cut this line right here. Super helpful. Makes it very easy to estimate. And then this is a good one. They start giving like a view of like what's happening. You can see that there's probably not going to be insulation here. And if it is, it's like really tight foil. It looks like foil insulation right there, actually. So, it gives really quick information on what needs to be happening for the estimator who's going to be doing that work. But this pretty good photo report, to be honest. This close-up is helpful. It was lifted. That looks like the stove. So I can say, okay, well, we can see the tile goes under here. If we are replacing the tile, then I'm going to have to just reset this stove because the tile runs under it. That's not always the case. Not all floors run under these things. So that's just good information, close up view to start telling that, hey, here's what we're doing. And then to give you a different view, here's some more information. So I think that's kind of the main idea is just take the time, create a clear, concise description for photos is more on the back end. But if like you're not using someone as like an estimating service or a claims manager, that's what we do at EmptyBox. We write estimates for people. So I would take this photo report, I'd create it into an estimate to be submitted to an insurance carrier. That's the work that we do. And then we actually do the claims management. So we would put descriptions on all these photos. So for instance, I'll just do like a real quick example. So if I want to grab some of these drywall flood cuts, I would just grab that one. I'd go down here and say, I'm going to grab this one. I think the rest, okay, so right here, and right here. So then if I go up to here, I would say, okay, I want to start creating some descriptions here. So I'd go like this, and I would say this was a water loss, and then I have some drywall that needs to be done. So we got the walls, and then just basically water damage to these walls is happening, and so I need to create, and why did I not let that go? Oh, I have to choose which ones I want here. Okay, so if I go, this would be a flood cut. This would be a flood cut. This would be a flood cut, flood cut, flood cut, flood cut, like that. And then I would just say, hey, I want to have some descriptions for the drywall damage and the flood cuts. And so then what we would do is we'd submit the photo reports to the carrier with the estimate. The more photos you get, the easier it is to tell that story. It makes approvals so much faster. So this is one of the first things happening on the claim, maybe not the creating of the photo reports or the estimates, but really getting the documentation is happening early on these claims. And the more photos you can get, the less likely it is that you're going to actually have to go back on site. So the first time you're there, it just makes sense to take the time and do it. If you found this helpful, I'd say subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications for weekly insurance claim tips. Drop a comment with your questions if you have any. I'll read every single one. And next week, we're going to do understanding an insurance policy, more of a homeowner's guide, but for contractors, honestly, to help navigate it too, because what their coverages are, sometimes that conversation, what I would call more like a sales conversation, if they don't have coverage for everything, now you have to talk to them about how is the rest of this project going to be paid for? Because it doesn't really change the scope as much as where's the money coming from. So if they don't have coverage for certain things, whether they had an exclusion or their policy had limits, the rest of that project is going to have to be discussed. And the earlier you can have this discussion, when you understand how to read a policy really quick too, there'll be some really good tips in there on how to like scan it quickly, find the info you need. Because sometimes they're super long documents, but there's only like 3 places that actually matter to the homeowner or the contractor when it comes down to how much am I getting paid for this claim and this loss that I had. So again, thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.